how exactly did Claudius conquer what no one before him could? Whether fact or fallacy, it's believed that Claudius's justification for entering Britannia was tied to the dethroning of a Celtic tribal king, Verica. The Catuvellauni tribe had ousted the pro-Roman king, banishing him from British lands and earning the harsh disapproval of Rome. Emperor Claudius likely saw this unacceptable power shift as a welcome act, however. Newly crowned and looking to prove himself militarily as best he could, this was a perfect opportunity. With the anti-Roman Catuvellauni moving briskly from their assault on Verica's Atrebates to ongoing expansion west, the Romans hastily began preparations for invasion. Who exactly was engaging in these arrangements is partially unclear, although we can say with certainty that the Legio II Augusta would follow soon-to-be Emperor Vespasian into British lands. Both Gnaeus Hosidius Geta and Titus Flavius Sabinus the Younger are mentioned to have participated alongside Vespasian, but commanding what army was not specified. Historians now suggest that 9 Hispana, 20, and 14 Germina legions may have in part or all accompanied the commanders into Britain, but this for now is only speculation. As for numbers, with Aulus Plautius commanding the invading force as a whole, it's postulated that around 40,000 Roman soldiers of mixed infantry, cavalry, and other auxiliary troops would sail to Britannia with likely hundreds of ships to carry them to their undetermined fate. If Cassius Dio's report is accurate, whichever legions took the journey, the Roman attackers arrived in 3 waves. Suetonius further suggests that the invaders had left from Bononia, while Cassius Dio asserts that they sailed east to west. Where they anchored once they landed in Britannia, nevertheless, is a bit of a mystery. Both historians and archaeologists have posited theories, and the 2 leading suggestions state that all 3 divisions landed at either Rutupiae or Noviomagus. Rutupiae would make less sense, however, if Cassius Dio's account is to be believed, because if the origin of the voyage truly was Bononia, the Romans could not have sailed from east to west. Archaeological evidence, on the other hand, shows signs of a Roman presence in the Rutupiae region around the time of the suggested landing, calling into question the reliability of Cassius Dio. Yet, Noviomagus still would make its own sense as a place of arrival, in one part because it would have taken the Romans into former territories of the exiled Verica, who just may have been at the core of the entire campaign. Whether through Noviomagus or Rutupiae, one way or another, the shores of Britannia would soon feel the weight of thousands upon thousands of Roman feet. The invaders were well-armed, well-armored, and well-trained and skilled. Their victims, the alliance of British Celtic tribes willing to fight for their freedom, were less fortunate, but nevertheless respectable warriors, even if cohesion and machinery were lacking in comparison to the Empire's fighters. Passion would likely have been on the side of the Brits, however, as they were defending their homeland and life as they knew it from one of the most baleful European powers of their time. The Romans were intimidating and not lacking in morale, but surely with less to fight for from the standpoint of each individual soldier. The Empire had much to gain, as did Claudius, but the Brits had their lives and entire existence at stake. The competing fervors first met with incendiary violence at the Battle of Medway. Caractacus and Togodumnus, Catuvellauni brothers, would be at the helm of the Celtic force marching valiantly toward Rome's impending army. The meeting is believed to have taken place at the River Medway crossing. One telling makes the claim that the Romans theatrically stormed through the flowing water with their horses to batter the awaiting Celts. Vespasian and Titus Flavius Sabinus are presumably to have been the spearheads of this charge, as their warriors now fiercely clashed by the riverbed. The first day of fighting came and went. The sun set on the unfinished bloodshed with no victor. The night held no answers, and dawn came soon with the promise of more violence. Day 2 of the Battle of Medway was underway. The second day would be the last. Despite early signs that the Britons would take the upper hand, they failed to ultimately do so. Yet the Romans found their own success in this. By day's end, the Britons were in a rapid retreat, fleeing all the way to the Thames, with the Romans in a fevered pursuit. The next clash would subsequently be along the moist banks of the River Thames, as the Britons scrambled to reorganize and recharge their fighters. It was becoming clear to the Catuvellani brothers that they may have overplayed their hand in taking on the likes of a mighty empire. The scattered and frantic Celts were once again callously beaten down and overpowered by the Roman soldiers. In the frenzied and desperate defense, Togodumnus was mortally wounded, holding on until the end of the clash, just long enough to watch his men fall yet again before he closed his eyes on the remnants of his impassioned hopes and breathed his last fighting breath. It was now clear to the Romans that triumph was on the horizon, and the horizon was within reach. Aulus Plautius is indicated to have, at this point, sent words to Emperor Claudius himself, suggesting that the monarch meet him at the next battlefield to witness the nearing sweet triumph. By now, according to Cassius Dio, the Romans had already received the submission of the Dobunni tribe, and likely anticipated more as the finale approached. Claudius soon arrived, accepting Plautius's invitation, carrying with him the pride of a widely underestimated and unappreciated emperor about to accomplish something that none of his forebearers could, and not for a lack of trying. They had simply failed, but he hadn't. Britannia was about to be his. The Emperor of Rome landed on British soil, the soft shores giving way under the unmatched weight of his war elephant's massive feet. The Praetorian cohort stayed close by as Claudius and his entourage marched across their newly conquered land. The Britons, very likely wholly stunned by the sight of Claudius's great beasts, seemed to have now made their final decision. Battle would be fruitless. The Celts would surrender, and the surviving Catuvellani brother, Caractacus, would give up his cause and abandon his fight for freedom. With this bloodless victory at hand, the Romans could now call their conquest complete, and the subjugation and disarming of the remaining Celtic natives began. It's believed that 11 kings now surrendered their tribes and lands to Roman authority. Meanwhile, Caractacus slipped from Rome's grasp to find refuge, possibly in Wales, until the day would come again that he could retake what had been his. For now, Rome had only just begun its takeover. The aftermath of the initial conquest and surrender would see Roman influence and control seep through southern England, only solidifying as it expanded and more trapped Britons fell in line. The city we know today as London, known then as Londinium, was founded 4 years after the invasion, and in the immediate aftermath, Emperor Claudius returned home to Rome to thunderous applause and boisterous esteem after spending scarcely more than 2 weeks away to capture his empire's new lands. Rebellion and resistance would nevertheless plague Britannia for the coming decades, but that mattered little to Claudius and his empire. A victory was a victory.